Hey, this is
Hi,
Lee. Hey, I've got an issue going on with my camera, I think. You, you can't see me, can you? Uh, hey guys, can you hear me? You can hear me, right?
yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, Pavan. Yeah, there. Okay, good. I don't know what's going on with my camera. What is the deal? Let me. I'm gonna jump out. I'll join right back. All right. Hey guys.
Yeah, we can see you now.
Yeah. Well, see, that's so much better now that you can see me. This is yeah, very good. Okay. Um, let's get prepped for the call. Has everybody got the link to the meeting minutes? I'll put it in the chat. There we go. Welcome to Good Friday edition of the Meshery Community Call. But what is today? The 19th? Be sure to grab a hold of that link and slap your name down in the doc. I'm going to type ahead on the agenda as we potentially have um, some new attendees today. We'll see if they show. Looking for Owen. Let's see. So if you guys, Pavan, and Pratik, if you guys have some specific topics, maybe just jot them down and then we'll get going. I guess we're about 4 after, maybe one more minute, and then let's get going.
Well, let me start what I did for the week.
Okay.
Uh, it's coming to this log stash, for logs IO, to pushing off our Docker containers into logs to see our logs in Kibana. My progress is I just created an Ubuntu and then log from the Docker container successfully I can visible in the Kibana dashboard of the logs IO. So after that, we just added that to the Terraform, and so once if we start our Terraform, we can see those logs to log Z, and the logs are we can see the logs in Kibana. That next a dashboard, preferred dashboard, what we required, and like how we have to visualize those logs. We have to come up with an view what kind of logs we need to see and all those things. So the logs is we can see the logs. If you want, I can start sharing my screen and like show those
Yeah, please.
logs. Yeah, just give me a second.
All right. I turned off my video just because I'm in a hotel room and the wireless here is pretty bad. So
Yeah. If you see my screen, like this was, let me share my yesterday's logs. This was like I just tested yesterday for some time. So it's like we can see the logs over here in logs IO. So let me start my Terraform over here, and like we can come up again. There will be a um, new AWS EC2 instance will create and then start. Um, just give me a second.
okay.
Well, I just started Terraform apply, and like so we got all our uh, um, instance containers everything starts creating in our EC2 EC2 instance, and so it's like so it's like automated, and so it's like once our Docker
Can I have your attention, please? Can I have your attention, please? To be
is up
testing
and
our life safety system.
we can see our it was for Meshery and one for Docker container to push the log from our Docker AWS to EC2 instance to the log C. So we have 3 containers. Take some couple of minutes to bring up this container. Just bear with us. Yeah, it's still initializing. Once this is, we have to out of 2, then we can see the logs over here. Yeah, I mean we can continue within this stay at least and like within this time you guys can continue like any of you.
Hi guys, this is Saco here.
Hey, Saco.
How's it going?
Hey.
Yeah, sorry about a bit late. Yes.
No.
Stuff. Yeah.
No, happy to have you. Yeah, good. Guys,
it's perfect.
Saco, let's get you introduced around to some of the other guys here. Before we do, I'm going to say this. 2 things. One, my wireless connection is horrible, so I might be speaking over you right now. So the second thing is I just got an intercom announcement here in the room that said they're about to do fire drills at the hotel that I'm in. So if you guys don't hear from me, that's why. Please, Girish, just continue the call.
Okay.
I'm going to turn off my video because I have bad internet.
Sure.
But actually, this is great. So, Saco, very pleased to have you on. This is fantastic. Do you want to do this, guys? Do you want to, Saco? Do you want to just introduce yourself to the community, and then if each of us would just go around real quick and introduce to Saco?
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Saco. So I came to US and joined Engine Mesh project. Started Sandwich Mesh by Nginx. It was open source project, so we worked there for a year, and then once in August project was discontinued, and then I joined OpenGov. It's open government. It's budget and performance solution for the government. So basically running Kubernetes in production, and mainly I'm focusing now on security part of it. and we have upcoming also Istio service mesh, and I like the Meshery project that couple things that this engine mesh. So uh, that's why I'm passionate about joining the project and contribute. So thank you for having me. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh man, awesome. Yeah, I'm pumped. This is great. um, do you? I don't know if anyone else other than Girish, you're familiar with Engine Mesh, right? I know they set the project down like last fall, but
Yeah, absolutely.
you remember? Yeah.
That was another interesting project, like, especially using a different sidecar with Istio was definitely an interesting thing to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's sad that they had to shut it down, but yeah.
So, Pavan, do you want to do an introduction to Saco?
Well, yeah. I see.
And Pavan, you're not on mute, but we cannot hear you.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you want to just do a quick intro to Saco?
Okay. Well, hi, Sakos. Most of the work, for say CD pipelines and Kubernetes, application migration from bare metals to to Dockerizing the application and into the Kubernetes. So I work for the DevOps team inside SRE for AT&T, and so
Nice.
yeah, like most of the work now I'm doing is like kind of a Terraform for automating the infrastructure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, we also use a Terraform and AWS. Everything is in AWS. We use EKS for the Kubernetes. Just
good. Okay.
It's shared point.
Okay.
Nice. Very good. Pratik, Pranav, you guys know I'm coming for you, so jump in.
Yeah. Hi, Sakho. This is Pratik and my colleague Pranav. We both are graduate students at University of Texas at Austin. We are students doing our major in computer architecture, and we joined this project to get a feel of what service meshes are, how are the architecture underlying cloud infrastructure is leveraged by these meshes, and how can computer architecture help increase this performance, or get an insight into how to increase the overall throughput, latency, other metrics of these meshes.
Oh, great addition.
Yeah, thanks. Nice to meet you.
All right, very good. All right, guys. With that, Saco, since we're talking about you a little bit and just getting you familiar with some of the contributors, there's the folks that you see on the call today are regulars and are fairly committed to the project, and so that's good. Girish is going to introduce here in a second as well, but maybe a couple of quick questions for you, so that we're orienting some of the work that you can do to best have you be successful.
Sure.
Is Golang one of your areas of comfort?
So there was agent part and engine mesh. I did a bit on this part, but that's definitely things that I want to invest more time. So because it was very simple, basic, but definitely I want to invest more on this direction. So it would be nice to.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And then how's your JavaScript or your React? Have you done much there?
So we have some open source, like in the because part of the school project did, and before I did Node.js and mainly now Python, all this in the Django framework we did. So yeah, that's but day-to-day job. I haven't used like mainly it was all the infrastructure in Terraform and AWS and DevOps and security and yeah, that's
Yeah.
me too. That was, but I think the Go part it could be and definitely can jump also for the React part. That's you can share the project with you. That's
Nice. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Good. And then just I know you just said it, but right now in the environment that you're within, is Istio? Are you guys using Istio there?
so
Or
it's we did POC. It's targeting coming like months or something that's start moving because we are finding the observability part is missing. That's mainly key thing that we want bring Istio. That's but what we did POC it was a very simple application that it was fine.
okay,
Yeah.
very good. And did you
But-
guys
but-
test out any other
Current-
service meshes?
So no, we just checked the Istio default one. I think 1.01 with Envoy in EKS. So the thing was that also with engine mesh that we didn't come up, it wasn't supporting the TCP. That's what I think.
Okay.
So that where we wanted at that time to move on. That's it didn't happen. So I think that's why we were saying that it's not production ready. That it was only HTTP supporting.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a side authentication, so not client side. Yeah.
Nice.
I
Okay.
haven't looked at LinkedIn.
All right. Well, you will.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay. Very good. Man, we're very pleased to have you, Girish. Do you want to do a quick introduction and let's get back to Pavan's demo?
Yeah, cool. Hey Saco, hey, very nice to have you. Yeah, my name is Girish. I'm with Lee, and I'm trying my best to spend quite a bit of time on Meshery. Towards the end of the call, after everybody's turn is done, I'll try to give a demo of current state of Meshery, and probably that might give you a better idea.
Yep.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing much. But yeah, I'm sort of the guy who's been I would say running Meshery from day one.
Yeah.
It was sort of started off as an initial idea, from Lee's side, which I tried to take on last year because me and Lee were actually giving several workshops on Istio, and then earlier this year, we actually tried to evolve it into something else, and that's sort of what Meshery is today. So you'll see it rather than me explaining to you what Meshery is. Probably Lee actually sent you some documents which definitely give you some insights, but I think seeing it will also be very helpful if you have not seen it before. It's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I went through and so yeah, you are the core contributor. So yeah, that's
Sort of, yeah. It'll be nice to get,
Yeah.
It'll be nice
Sure.
to have
more community
ton more contributions from everybody. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Nice.
Cool, man.
Thank you.
Oh, very good. Pavan, if you've got, so the gist of it is you are at a point by which you're ready to incorporate the logs.io setup into Terraform. It looks like you have, and you're basically ready to apply that to Meshery Cloud. And Pavan, You're on mute.
Sorry, I was in the mute. Okay, if you see my screen, like logs are like coming into the logs view, and so it's like we have 3 containers, and like if I go toggle for the specific name, like sees like we have Meshery SaaS and Docker. This is the Docker log where containers in our environment, and we are getting the logs to the logs IO. And the next part is like we have to start building of dashboards for the logs if it requires, on like probably maybe like we need to we need to go with alerts or dashboards. I'm not sure like what we need to go further. Like yeah, we can create a dashboard, as well as if you want we can create alerts for the logs we are getting to the logs.
Very good. Okay, Girish. Pavan, sounds like by next week we'll have Logs.io integrated into the currently running Meshery cloud, and then Girish, maybe a thing for you to address is whether or not you consider that there's specific alerts that are needed. It may be that we were just looking for that additional visibility more than we were for alerts.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
Or like yeah, if required, like we can go ahead like with the dashboards. Like we can create the dashboards, and we can like for the specific requirements, and we can create a dashboard, basic dashboards, and we can go further on that.
Pavan,
I'm sorry.
That'd be nice. There's a couple of requirements. There are things that pop to mind for me, and that's if we get a log each time someone logs in, that'd be nice to track over time, number of sessions that are happening. If you're able to tell if it's the same user logging in, it'd be nice to track on a per user basis how many times those users are logging in. I don't know if you're going to get all this out of the logs, but if you can break it down between what type of OAuth that they're using, Twitter, GitHub, or Google, that would be interesting as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, definitely, like that works. I believe, like from what Meshery says, I think we can pull those logs. I believe. Here, like in my environment, like this is like just the AWS machine where I'm testing. Like there won't be any much traffic, and so like I don't have any information like where who is logging and all those things. As this is the test environment what I have, so probably like maybe Girish environment may have like who is login and all those things, and if we pull the logs to logs C, and like we can test over there, I believe.
Yes, I am actually. I mean, so that's more specifically coming out of the application. Yes. I mean, like once we have all the logs from the containers sent to Logsy, I think yes, we can actually have all that visibility. From which, like, I think we can probably create some charts, and it'll be nice to see it visually as well. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice, very good. Thank you, Pavan. Do you want Pratik, Pranav? Do you guys want to go next?
From my end, the progress has been a bit slow. I have tested out Linkerd test cases. Lee, just a quick comment. I was trying to update the design doc with some of my ideas for the test cases, for performance and etc. I am still suggesting on that document, so either you have to approve my suggestions, or if you could just put me as a contributor on the document. Apart from apart from that, I have been looking at few of the tests. I have Excel sheet where I'm updating relevant test data. A quick question, Girish. Is Linkerd stats also published on Grafana? Like, is Grafana pulling all the stats while we have installed Linkerd? Because on my system, I was not able to do that. So a few of the Linkerd down results to see any vCPU memory network utilizations. Are you aware of anything?
I'm pretty sure, there is a Grafana for Linkerd. Maybe during my demo, I'll see if I can actually showcase something. And unfortunately, I don't know the intricate details of it, but I'm pretty sure there's something available.
Okay.
We can take a look at it, when I'm trying to showcase, whatever.
Yeah, sure. So I have published a few, not published, but like I've been putting in few of the numbers of some interesting test cases that I have run on one of the shared Excel sheets named Mesh Performance. I will put that link onto the meetings.
All right, very good. Any initial insights that you've seen?
Just a second. Let me share my screen. Can people see my screen?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay. Are you able to see the Excel document?
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So few of the tests, like most of my tests were earlier on Istio. I haven't done extensive testing on Linkerd. But as we can see for like Linkerd QPSs for similar test cases, so this and this are exactly the same tests on the HTTP bin. And we can see that Linkerd constantly has a higher queries per second on Istio, and similarly for these tests also the Linkerd performs better. After these results, I went into to look into the Grafana, what exactly is going on for service, etc. But for some reason, my Grafana was not showing any of the Linkerd stuff. So I think I have to debug if something is wrong in my setup. The average latency for most of the queries are similar. So since these are all small queries, the queries take similar time. There's nothing interesting there. I was trying to figure out how many of these take the most time, like the maximum latency, how many of these queries are on the maximum latency, and it is in the it is in single number order, which has led me to believe probably since my machine setup has like 8 parallel threads that can run concurrently. I think the first 8 queries are the longest running. I think I have to go and do some code changes to actually print out each query's time and then delve deeper into it. There are some interesting results here as well. So if we go into like the 95 95th percentile latency for.
In this case of the tool that you're using to measure the response times, are these through Meshery?
Yeah, these are
Okay.
through Meshery.
Okay, got it.
So from here to here, like if we look into these two results, we see that the QPS are the same, but inherently the second line item was run with 100 concurrent threads, whereas the first line item was run with 10 concurrent threads. So that does give a context switch overhead because there are a lot of threads and there are not enough processors to run those threads. And that can be seen in the 95th percentile latency and the 99th percentile latency. The latency for each thread goes up almost like 10x or more.
Nice.
And idle CPU utilization is usually constant and pretty minimal. I don't think that should, like, for Istio, that's pretty decent. If I get something on those linkerd stats, then we can make a comparison that when nothing is running, how much is the Istio versus linkerd overhead, like idle CPU and memory utilization. I will be doing like a busy CPU and memory utilization for REST tests and similarly for linkerd as well, and try to come up with a more elegant way to show all of these data. So yeah, I'm running experiments. There are some insightful results that I have found out. I do have to dig more deeper to get to a technical explanation for everything. Some of these I do have some technical explanation, but not for all of the data. It was a bit slow this week and next week as well, probably because I'm a bit busy on one of my course projects. But I'll keep updating this Excel sheet.
For the startup latency, do you know what approach you'll use to measure that?
Yeah, this is one line item. I have thought that it should make a difference, but I have not really gone into that as of now. Like in AWS Lambda and stuff, actually applications are spun up on demand. I'm not sure, for the applications are on, so I don't think there should be a startup latency apart from just Meshery setting up some of the routing protocols. I haven't really gone deep into that, but that is one thing that I have on there, which is on one of my line items to figure out.
Yeah. Potentially, it's an interesting one. There may be some startup latency with respect to, one of the things to potentially measure is how much time it takes to inject a sidecar. Like this is less of a performance test of a running application. Rather, how much time it takes to inject a sidecar.
Yeah,
change.
because once the sidecar is there, then the subsequent requests would be faster.
Yeah.
I have to probably think a bit more. I've been focusing on these data because these are out there and I can make good progress there.
Yeah.
You're right. Startup latency is important. I'll look into it.
No. This is great. No, I'm glad that we're finally accumulating a repository of tests that have been performed. Girish, this is probably marks an important point in time where we want to ensure that Meshery is capturing all of the right, all of this, all the right data points.
Correct. Yeah.
And ultimately, Girish, for Meshery Cloud, where all of these tests are being stored, that'll be a data mine for Pratik and Pranav and others to leverage.
Yeah, and apart from Meshery, like Meshery UI, there are a lot of information that are printed out onto the CLI as well, and those have been helpful. I will one other information that I would like to have is suppose I am doing 500 queries, then I would actually like which query was sent out first and how much time, and for all of those 500 queries. Right now the Meshery app gives a cumulative summary kind of thing, so I'll talk to Girish separately on this. What can I modify on the code base so that I can get actually all the timestamps? That would be helpful for some of the insights as well.
Yeah, makes sense. And at some point, right, a part of what I'm saying some things that we've already talked about and everyone knows, but part of what we'll need to account for within some of the final reports that are produced is environmental information about the nodes and their size of CPUs and etc. But also, whether or not some of the config of the mesh itself was MTLS turned on, or how often was it sampling for telemetry, or because ultimately we'll find all of those variables bear weight on performance characteristics.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
But
Yeah,
just
I definitely agree with you, Leon, on this point, because just sometimes one line of configuration was making difference. That's why we need default configuration, maybe also optimized one for each. This kind of
So Saco, yeah, great point in that part of what we hope to achieve with the project is to be able to educate the public or educate folks on the cost of telemetry. I mean, clearly the cost of a service mesh, but if you're looking for a lot of telemetry, you might have to pay a little bit more. And so, but how much more? And so, to your point, if we're able to ultimately provide prescriptive information that will allow people to in advance understand what they're going to have to pay for, so to speak. Yeah, some best practices.
Yep.
Nice.
So make sure that's kind of make more accountable that if you want this, you're gonna have trade-off this much in performance.
Yeah, that is true. Even in STO, like with MTLS turned on or off, how are these numbers varying? Those things will also come into picture in this Excel sheet. Yes.
Nice.
That's all from me and Pranav for the time being.
Yeah, very good. This is cool, guys. This is good.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, fair enough. I think so. Girish is probably going to give an update. I'm going to give one real quick. If we go back to the community meeting minutes, let me share those. There's a reason why I'm in a hotel this week. It's because I'm at Container World. I gave a couple of talks, but one of which was on Meshery and demoed on stage Meshery, and so that's good. And lots of questions asked. We're still not providing a lot of info, a lot of results and things. So the work that I keep telling people that Pratik and Pranav are at university, and now Saco is joining as well. At university, and they're prepping to put forth some earnest research and kind of study toward, very detailed study towards these things. What I'm also telling people and providing them with a bit of empirical data is on running a few tests. So Girish, maybe you'll demo this later, and so I don't need to. But on stage yesterday. Just did a quick demo to take Istio's canonical app, sample app, the book info app, have it deployed. Girish had all of this work is actually credited to Girish, but showed book info deployed 3 different ways. One not on a mesh. All of these in the same Kubernetes cluster. One not on a mesh, one on a mesh, and one on a different mesh. I ran a 30-second test across each of them, and the results were, and if I could bring up Meshery, I would show it quickly. But the results were that the performance for book info as it was deployed on Istio and Linkerd, at least in that environment for that specific configuration that those 2 service meshes had, was the performance was about the same, but really close. But the performance for book info that wasn't on the mesh was significantly worse. And I think for the audience, and it was my first time actually running it, but I was actually doing it on stage at the time, so it's kind of, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that was counterintuitive. I think for most that were there, they were expecting that applications that are not on a mesh are not having to pay performance overhead. And one of the audience members, who's actually the CTO at Avi Networks, had pointed out that, like, hey, to him that made sense, and he was saying that to him, in understanding that book info as an application, as it's deployed on Kubernetes, by default is going to be using kube proxy for its networking. And kube proxying is going to be leveraging user space IP tables. And there's going to be some overhead that's going to be a bit less efficient than what you might find inside of the networking that's happening in these service proxies. So no definitive results, but just interesting. Thought I'd give you guys an update. One thing that we do, so the next stop in terms of the Meshery Roadshow is DockerCon in a couple of weeks. There'll be a 2-hour service mesh session that I'll be hosting. I need to get together an agenda. I'm going to invite some of the other maintainers and vendors to come and have part of that discussion. We're going to talk about Meshery, Pratik, if we've got some of these same results and things to begin to share in advance. That's a date by which we will want to do it. It's the last week and first week of April and May. That's when DockerCon is.
Yeah, I'll work towards it.
Nice. Okay. One other thing, and then Girish, I'll give you the ball. Earlier today, we were putting together an outline of some documentation for Meshery. And so Yogi, he can't make it on the call today, but he's putting together a quick docs site for Meshery. And so the docs themselves will be stored in the Meshery repository. And he's going to use this theme here. He's going to take some actions, but here's an initial documentation outline. And so each of you are encouraged to, once this is up, to come over and begin to add some content here. And some of those, like for Pratik and Pranav, you might be interested in helping people understand the results and interpret them. I was answering some questions yesterday after demoing Meshery where people were saying, well, hey, what does the green mean? Like, what is the P99? And what's a histogram? And how do these? And so just there's certainly some areas of explanation and some things to be done. So I'll put the link to the sample outline of what the drafts will look like. I'm sorry, what the docs will look like in here. Other than that, over to you, Girish.
All right. Okay, so I'm just going to try to share my screen and take you guys through the process. Now, Pratik, first thing I noticed was that, I tried to actually look at the Grafana deployment, that was part of Linkerd, and it does seem to have some issues, but there is a Grafana that's deployed as part of Meshery, as part of Linkerd.
Okay, yeah. I mean, on the Grafana UI, I was facing some issues. I could see the Istio um, uh, stuff, but not the Linkerd stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could configure them both to use the same Grafana, but then out of the box, they don't.
Okay,
Since
okay.
Istio is configured with one Grafana, and Linkerd is configured with its own Grafana. So yeah, I mean, if you
Okay.
want to manually configure them, yeah, it'll be like a manual thing.
Okay.
We'll
Or probably I can just go to the Grafana UI that the Linkerd. It must be on a different port number, I guess. So,
exactly.
yeah.
No.
So I mean, for my numbers, I can go ahead and look into the other port, and in the meanwhile, we can work on the integration.
Very nice. Very nice. Cool. All right, guys. Okay, so the last 2 weeks, like there have been quite some changes. Many UI changes, but again, like nothing super major except for some restructuring, mostly. And then there have been some customizations supporting the UI changes in the backend. So this is pretty much it. There have not been any changes, at least in the adapter area, in the last week. Week before, I had created an adapter, but it was a bare bones one for console. Now I think I had already informed the team about the Linkerd adapter. So to get started, since Saco is here, hey Saco, so I'm actually running Meshery on my local, and I also have the cloud component running on my local, and also the adapters running on my local because I'm developing all of them side by side usually. So this is the entry screen. So right after you log into Meshery through the single sign-on process, either with Twitter, GitHub, or recently, so I forgot to mention that. So recently we actually added support for Google authentication. So that was the one that was actually done earlier this week. So people you can use either of Twitter, GitHub, or Google to actually sign into Meshery. The process is the same, so you shouldn't really experience any difference in the sense once you click on the login sign, the button, you'll be taken through the appropriate, the single sign-on process. So let me see if I can actually show it to you here. So you can see that I'm already logged in here. So when I just clicked on it, it automatically took me in. And I don't have an avatar configured, so which is the reason why it's not showing. I think if I actually go with Twitter, you might actually see my my avatar. Yeah, so it's again very specific account configuration. So with Google, I have not configured an avatar. So yeah, so once you log in, you'll actually have your avatar icon here and the logout button show up. Now right next to it, sorry, just give me 1 second. Yeah, so right next to it, is the notifications section. One of the recent changes that was made is actually adding a clear all notifications button, so that so we don't have to individually click on one by one, because earlier the way was that if you had 10 notifications, you'll have to individually dismiss them by either clicking on the icon or opening the dialog and then clicking the dismiss. I've tried to bring in the clear all notifications, so that was another minor tweak. Now the other thing at the bottom of the page is actually that you guys can see my screen, there is a footer that was actually added to the site in last week. Again, so it's a nice thing to have, and I think the Layer 5 community has a link. So if you actually click on it, you'll be taken to the Layer 5 IO in a separate tab, so you don't lose context in Meshery essentially. So that was another thing. Now for Saco, so this is the performance testing page. This is kind of the entry page, where people can actually run tests from here. Now, the other recent changes, I think, I think I already had mentioned adding the test name and the service mesh name last week. Now, this week, one other change that happened here was actually that instead of letting you guys manually type a service mesh name, we thought it'll be better to actually give you the option to select a mesh from the list of known ones. Again, if a one you're looking for is not available, you'll have to create it. A PR process. But whatever is currently on F5's service mesh comparison page, I'm there, so that so this matches with the other source of truth essentially. So this was one other thing that was done, and I think I probably mentioned this last week, like where the testing duration earlier it was like fixed just minutes, but now like I'm giving you guys the flexibility to actually run the test anywhere between like seconds, minutes, hour. You just have to suffix it appropriately. So now, for example, by default you'll start off with 30-second one. You can actually change it to like 5 seconds or 5 minutes or 5 hours or whatever you guys want. I haven't tested beyond an hour, so just that's like the truth. So I think I've pretty much tested the second and the minutes for sure, and they work well.
Girish,
Yeah.
just a quick question here. I have actually tried this. I tried 1 second, one request and one query. That does not work. Like it by default takes at least 2 queries. Can you say something about that?
That's a good point. That was actually not known. I can definitely look into it for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Yeah, cool. That's a good observation. You know what, Pratik? Can you actually go to Meshery and create an issue for me, and just assign it to me so that I can definitely look into it.
Sure, definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. So the rest of the fields are very straightforward. Test a friendly name. You guys want to remember test URL to test the concurrent requests and the queries per second. Now the value 0 indicates indefinite, in the sense it's going to try as hard as the client can hit the server. So that that doesn't mean it's not queries, but that's essentially what it is. And of course, the duration. And once you run the test, you'll see the chart show up in a minute. Along with that, the results will actually get populated in the results section, which is right here. If I go to the results section, you can actually see the previous test that I've run, and and again it's paginated, so you can actually see through all. On my local environment, I have around 38 tests. So this was actually one of the things that I was running yesterday. So so I have this book info deployed on one of the environments. So you can see I've run multiple versions or multiple times the same type of test, which is books info no mesh. This is the 11th time. It also have the Linkerd version, and on the previous page I also have the Istio version. Now from this page, you can actually expand and also see the chart for that run. That was too short a run, which is the reason why you're actually seeing it that way. Now this is actually the other better run, for 30 seconds, and similar one for 30 seconds. So you can actually compare them side by side by seeing here, or you can actually compare the 2 you want to compare, or 3 you want to compare, or more, and then click the compare selector, and you'll actually see a different chart. If you only select 2, the chart will be slightly different. So for 2 up to 2, the exact chart is compared. While for 3 and above, I think the values are actually compared, which is the reason why if you actually select more and you hit the compare selector, you'll see each of them having just a vertical axis there. And of course, they're the color. They're also appropriately colored, for their values. So that's about it. And also one other thing is that the selection works across the pages. I think I might have told this the first time I actually showcased this section. So you can see that it shows 2 rows are selected, and you can compare the 2 across pages. Now this one here, just deselects the one on the page, while this one at the top, deselects it across the pages. So that's kind of a high-level view of the results section. And yeah, just what Lee mentioned, that was an interesting observation that when there is no mesh, the performance was significantly terrible. While with Linkerd or Istio, the performance was way different. So yeah, this was one of the other things that were changed. Now the other major change was that on the left, people who have been seeing Meshery, you have seen more menu. You can see right now we have actually nailed it down to 3 main items, and of course the community is still there, but here configure is gone, the Grafana section is gone, all those are gone. So what we have done instead is that now if you go to playground, you'll see an option for configuring the playground. And also on the right top, right next to the notifications icon, you'll see a settings icon. So both this configure playground and this one, take you to the same place. That's this new other update, which is actually a wizard. This was the other thing that was actually added this week. Like essentially a wizardy experience. It's a 3-page wizard. Like, the first one is a Kubernetes configuration, second one is an adapter configuration, and the third one is a Grafana configuration. And I've tried to add an asterisk. I'm not sure if you guys can see when I'm showing it from my screen. There is an asterisk light right next to the first two because they are mandatory for playing, but the third one is optional. If you really want to integrate with Grafana, you sure can. Not much changed here. So I don't have a context name, so I'm going to hit submit. So yeah, this is a new one, where once Kubernetes is configured, it'll actually show up here. If you want to delete it, you can just click here and then again start over. So that way, you can play with multiple clusters. Another change, which was also another significant change, was actually the thing with multiple adapters at the same time. Now, up until now, it has always been the case where you work with one adapter, so which means that you work with a Istio adapter or a Linkerd adapter. But we wanted to kind of take it further, where it'll let you work with multiple adapters at the same time. So in my case, of course, if you're using the Docker Compose or using the CLI tool, for Meshery, please remember to actually use the appropriate value. For me, it's localhost because I'm running all the services locally. The one other upcoming change, which will be added probably the next week, is actually that you probably don't have to enter this value. We are working on making this sort of slightly autonomous, so that once Meshery starts, it'll automatically have some of these adapter environments preloaded in it. But that doesn't mean it'll be static. It will still give you the option to update it if need be. So once an adapter is added, you can see it gives you this interface where again you can delete one, and then you can actually add one. So this is the Istio adapter. So you can also see the Istio logo show up here. The same way we have done it for the Linkerd adapter. You can see the Linkerd logo show up here. Now the other thing is that just to be sure, I'm actually preventing adding the same adapter twice. So if I try to re-add it, you'll see that it's successful, which means that the Linkerd adapter is already configured. So that's earlier. This was a numbered version, it was 1, 2, 3. Now, once a step is successfully completed, it'll also show a tick mark right next to it, and you can see Grafana is not configured, so hence the number. Also at the bottom, it'll actually show that the step is complete. So now once you have the mandatory configurations done, and if you go back to the playground, you'll actually see that for every adapter, there is a section now that's created, and the operations there are specific to that adapter. So the case with Istio, you can actually see the deploying Istio, the Linkerd, the latest version of Linkerd installation, emoji auto demo, and the books info demo application installation. The custom YAML is again common to all the adapters. So once you select a custom YAML, you are. But if you select another one, so that experience is still the same. So no difference there. One other thing, so we have this other, control for depicting that it is a delete operation, but I've switched that to a revert button. So, hopefully it makes a little more sense. Now I've actually show you what's on the cluster. So you can see that, this is a bare bone Kubernetes cluster, so there is nothing fancy. So we can.
We are still continuing
and probably Istio at the same time. So I'm actually selecting installation of Linkerd, giving it a namespace, and then hitting submit. I'm going to give it a second while I can also come here and then select the deployment of Istio. This is going to take some time, but even before I click that, you can actually see that the Linkerd installation is successfully completed. So notification is here, so I'm going to leave that. Tried installation of Istio on the same box. It's a bit smaller box, so I'm not sure that it'll complete successfully. But to show that it is in progress, though, you can see the Linkerd is now installed and it's all up and running. The Istio deployment will actually take a few more minutes because it's going to download the package, first apply the CRDs, and then come to the installation of the other components. So it might
the building.
take some more time going up.
It is just a test. This
So,
will be going
yeah, I'll
on
leave that there.
until
So the point
3
I'm trying to make is that simultaneously, without having to change screens, you will be able to work with multiple adapters. So this is actually one of the other major things that was actually accomplished the last week. You're pretty much out of time, so I'm going to stop there. Again, if you want to reconfigure, you can click on the configure icon, go back and change whatever you guys want, and then come here, give a Grafana URL, and add it in as well, like if need be. Now, one other thing, which I touch on. Oh, there you go. So you can actually see the Istio deployment is now ongoing in the cluster, so you can actually see the Istio stuff coming up. And yeah, there you go. So the notification did come up that the Istio deployed successfully. So now we have two. So I'm just going to show you the clear all, and you can see all the notifications are cleared on chat. So coming to the Grafana part. So if you guys can see my screen, there is a Grafana which is deployed in the Istio system namespace, and also there is another Grafana that's deployed in the Linkerd namespace. By default, neither of these Grafana are exposed. So probably this answers Pratik's question that yes, you will have to first expose the Grafana, either using a node port service type or a load balancer service type. Once you have that, once you have configured that, you will be given an external port. And once you have the external port, you can actually come back to Meshery and give the URL here. And so that way, when you're running a performance test, you will be able to see the Grafana charts right on the bottom of the page. One thing I noticed though is that the Grafana, which is deployed as part of Linkerd, is actually not. I mean, when I tried it, some time back, it wasn't really working well. We try to. I know we are out of time, guys. So if you guys want to drop, please feel free. I'm just trying to answer Pratik's question. But if you have some other things to talk about, please feel free to. While I'm going to keep typing something, those who are interested, please, you can take a look at it. If not, feel free to drop. And happy Good Friday, guys.
Thank you, Girish, and happy Friday for all. It was really nice to meet, and I will just quickly will go through it, and maybe with you and Levi, we can just catch up just how best I can help. In which
awesome, dude. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. Yeah. Awesome.
Quick question. So as I understood, in general, that's the idea is we are building the interface that's gonna help for different mesh projects select, and it's end-to-end testing, mainly the performance. We don't include routing rules added and stuff. That's different use cases. Or?
So as part of the playground, you are free to actually, create custom rules. Like for example, for